This is Wandering Universe. In the last video, we've uncovered the age of the largest volcano on the island, Rano Kai. Today, we're going to unravel the mysterious age of the Moai Statues and find out who actually made them. So, let's go exploring. Here we are. This is the global sea levels map of the last ice age. And as you can see, where you see in blue, not just in green, I think it's in green, but where you see in blue, that's how high the water level risen at the time. And this is where a lot of the ice has covered. So for example, here where I live, where the ice has covered this area of the country. And as you can see in this area, here in Siberia, in the North Pole, Greenland, as you can see in the green part, that's where a lot of the ice has been covered, as you can see. So this is an interesting map to study the rising sea levels, and also just to see how far the ice age stretched between the two poles of Antarctica and the North Pole. So interesting to do a little bit of research into that. I might do a video about this at a future date. So let's go back in time where it all began. Voila! The Palestine age began 2.58 million years ago and ended roughly about 11,700 years ago. The cutoff date of the last glacial period and the end of the Paleolithic period is roughly 1.8 million years ago. Then the Palestine took over, as you can see here. At the end of the Phyllocene age, which is the previous glacial ice age, had happened in North and South America, and these continents were joined by the Isthmus of Panama. The Glaciation in the Northern Hemisphere happened around 2.7 million years ago. Okay, so that's North America. This is South America. Panama, I think, is I think it's in here somewhere. I'm not sure where it's really located. I think it's in Central America somewhere. I guess it's the place for all sorts of strange people to escape, or exile or self-exile themselves for mysterious purposes. But this is what they're talking about here. So I guess you can say that if life began after the Paleocene period, probably towards the end of it, it means that around the equatorial area, or around the equator, should I say, would have been a tropical temperate climate. So it would have been very luscious, luscious vegetation as well. There would have been a lot of huge forest trees, and there would have been an abundance of food and water, and the temperature would have been just right back then. Hence, if the ice began to melt, it means these areas began to dry up. So if this is the Sahara, because in today's current map shows that nearly half of Africa is dry, like Mauritania, the Sahara, Saudi Arabia, and so forth. It's all under sand. But as you can see here, it would have been absolutely beautiful at that time. So it would have been interesting to go back in time just to explore the tropical lush forest that's similar to the Amazon today. It would have been an ideal place to live back then. So interesting map to look at. Okay, so I'm going to show you the next map here. This is a black and white map of the Palestine North Pole Ice Age, as you can see here. So whatever you see in white is showing you that a lot of it was under ice back then. So the Younger Dryas, meaning a cold spell, occurred at the end of 9640 BC, meaning 11,654 years ago. Now, the Ice Age is divided in 4 stages. You got the Gelasian, Calabrian, Chibaian, and Upper Philistine, which is known as Siberia. So I'm going to show you that in a sec. Where you see USSR, that's Siberia, this area. And what you see here is northern Siberia under ice, including Greenland, Canada, and northern parts of America. So I'll show you the next map. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. Okay. This is a prediction or a hypothesis of how far the ice stretched itself. And as you can see, lower parts of South America, the eastern coast of Australia, some the coastal and inland region New Zealand, a few parts of Siberia, just today's Russia, and most, as you can see, of Canada, Greenland, and North Pole was definitely under a lot of ice, including Alaska. So that's very interesting. And as you can see, it says here, this occurred during the Pliocene Ice Age. So life would have been very, very different back then. Now, the Upper Pliocene occurred between 129,000 to 11,700 years ago. Now, here is where it gets truly interesting. Okay. Archaic humans began to emerge from their ice cave dwellings and began to roam as soon as the weather hinted the ice was beginning to melt. This was occurring first in the northern region, then ultimately extended its way through the southern hemisphere of the planet. Now, I'm going to show you 4 types of human that evolved as soon as the ice began to melt, roughly around that time period or a little earlier. Now, yes, don't be alarmed. Yeah, this used to be one of us, okay? I know. Not that good looking. But anyway, apart from that, this is an Australopithecus human. This, the age is around 4 million years old. The next one is a Parathorpus robustus, early human, during the Ice Age. So this one occurred about 2.6 million to around quarter of a million years ago. So this is one of the earliest known humans that came out the moment the ice began to subside. This is a skull called the Peking Man, or Homo erectus, and roughly it's aged about 2 million years old. You can see this in I think it's called the Peking Museum in China. And this is Homo heidelbergensis. Wow. Yes, intellectual words there. And it's roughly about 0.6 million years old. So this type of human, you know, our ancestral human, would have came out the moment the ice began to melt away, sea levels rose, and things started to look dry, but still there was an abundant source of food and water available for these type of humans to begin a new life. So this is very interesting. Now, around the late Palestine age, yes, us humans decided to step outside, get curious about what's out there stuff, and took our first steps towards finding civilization. we instinctively began to spread ourselves far and wide from Africa to Eurasia, such as Siberia and the Eastern Ranges, Australia, and the Americas. However, around this time, venturing out to the ice-free zone, the large-bodied animals such as the woolly mammoth, the saber-toothed tiger, leopards, crocodiles, and hyenas were dying out, mainly due to environmental changes. Now, I'm going to show you the Palestine age in South America. Now, this is a very big grizzly bear. And yes, these are turtles, believe it or not. They're huge back then during the Ice Age. So don't think you want to go out and pick daisies in the field and frolic in the sun while you got these predators keeping an eye on you, tempting you for lunch and dinner. So yes, I don't think conditions back then would have been favourable for us. Now, this is the Ice Age fauna in northern Spain. So yes, woolly mammoths, wild horses, we call them brumbies. You can see them in Victoria and South Australia around the Flinders Ranges. And yes, these are the big pussycats, the tigers. And as you can see, yes, that's the furry rhinoceros, believe it or not. It had fur, yes, before it migrated to Africa as soon as the ice began to melt. So even though this photo shows that these type of creatures died out due to environmental factors, the truth is they just transferred their DNA structure from one form to another form, which is the elephant and the rhinoceros today, but without the fur. Okay, and here's another one. This is a woolly mammoth back then. So did we hunt these creatures during the Ice Age? Yes, we did, but we had to be very strategical. Otherwise, we would have been attacked unawares by them if we're not very careful how we hunted them for food. And this is a saber-toothed tiger. Yes, a very large pussycat, not one that you want to go up to and patronize or say goochie goochie goo. Anyway, while this was happening, us humans began to go in search of food, water, shelter, clothes, and tools like fire to cook our dinner and shelter to keep us nice and dry from the wind and rain and sleep well at night, fingers crossed. We also began to interbreed, yes, aren't we so clever, with the archaic humans, and I'll show you a picture of them. Yes, this is who we were back then. Yes, that's how we survived the freezing cold temperatures during the day and night. I guess depending on the type of humans that evolved back then, we do have a mixture of Erectus and Neanderthal DNA within our DNA structure strand. So this is what we have may looked like back then, okay, but life would have been very, very difficult. Thus, the melting of the ice began roughly between 11,000 to 9,000 years ago. Now, this is going to be a real kicker here. Okay, but wait, there's more. You must be wondering, apart from how on earth those big beasties were constructed and formatted into shape, what about the age? How old are these mighty proud things? Well, I'm glad you asked. Okay. This is a Rapa Nui man, the modern man. Okay, so don't get confused with our predecessors just yet. Now, check out this photo or this illustration. This is a Turkana boy, a Homo erectus boy, one of the first to voyage outside the Siberian ranges and set foot on the Polynesian islands. So, today's Polynesian islanders are descendants of Homo erectus. And Homo erectus came from a particular tribe back in the Siberian ranges. How very, very interesting. Now, this is an illustration of the colonization of Polynesia. Now, here is the northern part, so that's China, that would be Siberia. Don't forget China, Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, Mongolia, and Eastern Europe were all once Siberia. Siberia was enormous back then, especially during the Ice Age. Now, to think that Homo erectus came from one of the tribal branches in Siberia and decided to venture out, whether they walked or whether they built a large canoe and hauled themselves all the way across thousands of miles of treacherous waters to embark on exploring what's out there stuff. And as you can see, this is where they discovered these islands, which are known as the Polynesian Islands today. Now, how on earth, you must be wondering, how they set foot upon these islands? Well, what they used was a star mapping system. Now, I showed you that in a previous video, how they used stars in the night sky to pinpoint exactly where the planets were aligned, which planets closest to Earth were aligned. And then they used something very interesting. They used their bodies as a compass. Now, how they did this is that they sensed where north, south, east, west was by detecting magnetic fields in the atmosphere, the Earth's atmosphere. So, say for example, if one of them was, say for example, one of the tribal branches here, it would have started to go to the coastal edge here, and then it would decide, okay, let's see where we're going to go. So they would have used their bodies to detect electromagnetic fields to pinpoint where is southeast, southwest, or heading towards east or north was. And with the help of using the stars mapped in the sky, it would actually indicate how far that they need to go in order to find their first spot of land. So it's pretty remarkable how they achieved it, believe it or not. To get across on their huge canoes, or they walked, there would have been island bridges to get across from one continent to another to set foot and embark on a pretty dangerous journey. It wouldn't have been easy to find it, but they did. So it's pretty remarkable how they actually ventured out using just the star map and the electric magnetic fields to using the bodies as a compass to detect where the Polynesian islands were located. So very, very interesting. Now, even though they came across with just themselves, food, clothing, and tools, don't forget they brought tools over, you have to wonder what sort of tools did they bring over. I'm going to show you something interesting. This is the tools that were found on Easter Island. Now, I presume that these were the tools that our descendants, our ancient humans, brought over originally from Polynesia, and probably from the ranges in Siberia. And then they decided, okay, we'll venture out further, bring these tools with us, and let's start doing something useful with them. Now, archaeologists believe that these were the tools used to chisel, carve, drill, hammer, and sand the basaltic stones that constructed and sculpt the Moai statues. Can you believe this? You have to be skeptical, wouldn't you? Well, let me show you something else I found on Easter Island. These are the arrowheads. Now, as you can see, these arrowheads don't look very sharp and pointy. Usually when you're hunting for animals, they have to be in that manner. So it penetrates deep into the skin and right into the flesh, so that way you can catch your prey well. But these ones look like they were made for another purpose. I'm not sure what, but this is interesting that they're not shaped like a typical arrowhead. Here's another one. These are actual stone carving tools, believe it or not, modern day. They're made of iron. Now, these are the tools. Can you imagine this? These are the very tools that whoever made the Moai statues used them way back then. I'm talking about soon after the ice began to melt. I believe that iron wasn't just purely discovered by accident by us. It was used by other beings from another world. But they would have far more advanced technology. But this is just a hypothetical example. Now I'm going to give you another example. These are stone carving tools as well. If you want to draw on eyes, ears, nostrils, or a hole or groove or something to just smooth out the rough edges of a particular feature, like on the face, for example. So that's very interesting. Now, till this day, archaeologists have found over 1,500 stone basalt carving tools. Not one iron or bronze tool was ever found on the island. Did they know about the Bronze and Iron Age? Well, I don't know. Did they? Did the Polynesians knew anything even close to what an iron tool looked like back in their time? We don't know. All we know is that they brought over stone tools. Now, I find it really hard to grasp the concept that they can use a stone tool in order to carve and chisel and really sculpt well one of those Moai statues. It would have taken forever, I reckon, to do it. I don't think it would have been done efficiently. So now that we have finished our forensic investigation of the area, and after examining all the evidence available, let's begin deducting the possibility of who actually made the Moais. It's time to take the Polynesian people out of the equation. The archaeologists and scientists' preconceived idea that they, or it was the Polynesians people who came from the French Polynesian islands, such as Marquesas Islands, were the ones that made those big beasties. This theory truly begs to differ. So here it is. This is the Marquesas Islands out in French Polynesia. Easter Island is somewhere here. Like I said, it's a dot in the ocean. And here is the islands there. Now, is there a connection? Okay, just hang in there. I'm going to get to it. All right. Now, it is possible that the Polynesian people themselves made those statues. Okay, let's just think about that for a sec. The tools that we use today is the tools, for example, we used to create them back then, right? The age of the Moai statues, according to the timestamp of the extinct volcano, is 11,700 years old. Okay. This is where it gets really interesting, okay? Yes, I'm getting a little bit anal here, but that's okay. I'm trying to just grasp this information about the age of the Moai statues. So, the statues are far older than first thought in age. We're talking about between 9,000 to 15,000 years old. Older than Göbekli Tepe and younger than the Giza pyramids. Now, okay, this is where it gets quite juicy. Now, this is a rubber tire type gantry crane. As you can see, it is carrying a huge shipping container. Now, here's another type. This is I think it's Tao Sun crane in China. This is the largest in the world. It can lift up to 20,000 metric tons, but lifting in loads of 50, 100, and 150 and 300 tons per day. Okay, so not all at once, otherwise the whole thing would cave in, topple, and collapse. Okay, but I want you to imagine this. Is it possible that the tools were found, developed, created, molded into shape, and utilized to construct marvels of concrete jungle urbanization wonder today that someone, some other species from another world had used back then? The same technology and far, far more advanced tools, cranes, and other construction methods used over 9,000 to 15,000 years ago. So have a look at this crane, right? Could it be that they, the species back then, used this technology, I'm just speaking hypothetically, used this marvel of engineering to build the pyramids? Use these type of cranes, as you can see here, to build Göbekli Tepe, and to create and move the Moai statues from one part of the island to another part of the island to sit them on neatly on the platforms? Think about it for a moment. Really have a think about it. Check this out. Right? So, what I'm saying to you is that that's how old the Moai statues are. We, us humans alone, did not make these statues. We didn't. Someone else did. Why? Because someone else had the brains and the means to do it, and it wasn't us. We weren't ready for such mighty feats of engineering back then. No, we were still evolving. The species from another world had already evolved, and they continue to evolve as I speak. So, here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is wood making stone tools from the Stone Age period. Okay, do you think for a moment that we made those monuments, those wonders around the planet, around the circumference of the planet, using these tools? Okay, think about it for a moment. Now, I'm going to get to something else. Now, I'm going to give you a comparison of the difference in the brain development. Here it is. This is us, the sapien, and this is the Neanderthal. Okay. Now, compare the two. Which one is better? Okay. All right. My hypothesis is this. It's all to do about the cranial features as illustrated in this photo. Now, as you can see, they had bigger heads than we did. Okay. Now, I reckon it's not just to do with our bone structure or our, wonderful, good-looking features, or anything to do with our physique, okay? Because the Neanderthals were more stocky looking and we became more lean and athletic looking. However, I reckon the comparison is this. Is that the human brain development in the cranial region, Neanderthals were actually better thinkers in terms of accessing better quality prey when hunting, gathering, and built and lived better quality living standards. Yes, they did. they were able to strategize how to get their prey rather than just chasing after a chicken for hours on end until you're exhausted and the creature is exhausted and you just can't even be bothered or too stuffed to even pick up a spear or an arrow, bow and arrow and just shoot the damn thing. Neanderthals would have had better strategies and were, I'd say, more patient people in order to get their prey. They would have even invented traps in order to get their food. So that once again takes a lot of hard thinking. So you also got to remember that they were the ones that invented a tough and hard-wearing glue from tree resin, believe it or not. While we, yes, us humans, are impulsive, spontaneous, and often ego-driven. Wow, geez, what a downfall, what a weakness. We're not very good at learning from our mistakes, yet the Neanderthals are better because they just were more patient people. Our interests are always ahead of everyone else's, thus led to stupid and dumb mistakes that we make, okay? I don't think Neanderthals are dumb creatures as we have so, complacently labeled them. I think they just were more patient and had a little bit of a better intelligence than we do at this current stage. So think about that. I find them very interesting. I'd rather be a Neanderthal than actually be a sapien. I think it's because they didn't have so much of an ego compared to us. They weren't so dependent on their egos as much as we do for our survival. Very interesting. Now, I'm going to show you something else. Now, yes, I showed you this photo in one of my videos on Göbekli Tepe, the ancient aliens who built them, okay? So in the end, who's got the brains? Is it us or them that created and crafted those wonderful standing Moai statues, okay? And here's another kicker. Yes, this is from Göbekli Tepe, okay? Who's got the brains? Okay, is it us or is it them? And here's a real treat for you, just to round this up. Yes, the big beasties, all standing in a row, looking inland, humbly. So, think about that for a moment. This is my last video on Rapa Nui. It's been an honour to share these videos with you, the magnificence of these golden treasures that still stand today, like proud but humble beings. One day, when I've saved up enough money, I'll travel back to the island and explore those big beasties as an adult. In the next video, I'll be looking into the French Polynesian Islands and its mysterious connection with Rapa Nui and the Moai statues. That's all for now.